Well, it's now March 2022, and in England, the UK, we're back to normal. There's no more fear of the virus anymore. The government has suddenly said we're going to return to normal, and yet really nothing's changed. The virus is still there. As I've always said right from the beginning, because I was only fooled for 2 weeks, but from the very beginning I said that we can't shut up the world just because of the virus. We've got to live with it. Those who die, die, and the rest will live on because we get protection from it. Once we get it, our immune system protects us eventually. So I never had any, I never wore a mask, and I never washed my hands. And yet I used to mix with people all the time on the buses, etc. I just knew it was nonsense. They're telling you that you've got to have the injection to protect yourself, but at the same time you've still got to wear the mask. Well, that's ridiculous. The injection either protects you, the vaccination, or it doesn't. If it protects you, you don't need to wear the mask. But they just make up these things as they go along. So I knew it was all lies. There was none of these mass graves, pictures of mass graves on the front of newspapers, where there's just so many bodies. That's what they have to do in situations like that. They have to dig a huge hole in the ground and just shovel all the bodies in with a bulldozer. So I knew it was all lies. Of course, some people die. So what? People die of the flu. People die of many things that they can catch, airborne things. I mean, people are dying, a lot of people are dying every day. Hundreds of thousands, I think it's 500,000 people a year in England alone who die in car crashes and such like. We don't stop car crashes. We don't say to people, you can't go out, it's too dangerous, you might get hit by a car. Do it's ridiculous. We just accept it. It's part of life. Death is a part of life, and it's just as important, death, as life is. To be born and to die is normal, but what we're doing these days is stopping people who should die. Normally in the past, before all these vaccinations came along, a lot of boys would die before they hit 5 years of age, and that keeps the population down, you see. But people aren't that intelligent, and they don't see that the population's too much. They never have. But getting back to the virus, why do you think the government's suddenly done an about face on this virus thing? Because it hasn't changed. The virus is still there. It's because of Putin. They're afraid of a war. That's why they stopped it all. Because they are afraid of a war. The virus doesn't matter anymore. The lies about the virus doesn't matter anymore. It's all about the war now, the possible war. You never know. But I personally say no one's that stupid. Putin isn't a stupid man. He's done this for a reason. Attacked this country for a reason. Because, as far as I can see, it's because it's having close ties with the US. And I'm sure that the US had ideas about putting their arsenal there. Some nuclear rockets there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they was up to. And I'm sure that's why he's attacked that country, to stop the US putting their nuclear rockets there, because they want to get as close as they can to Russia. Because if there is a nuclear event later on, they can kill Russians before the Russians can attack us. You've got to watch America. I used to think there was a good country years ago when I knew nothing. But I've watched them over the years, and I realise you can't trust America. Basically, you can't trust politicians in general. So I say, even though I'm not religious, I say, God bless Putin. because it's given us all freedom. And as I'm talking about Putin, I might as well go back even further to the Second World War, to Hitler. I also say God bless Hitler as well, because people don't realise, these days they don't, but in those days people throughout the world were starving because there was no work. It all started when they had the crash in America in the 20s. And what happened with Hitler starting a war, all the countries then had to spend government money on factories, and that brought everyone work. All the poor could work now at factories to make ammunition, to make tanks and airplanes and everything else what goes into a war. You know, not so much today, because in Europe and that we got government assistance, but in those days there wasn't really any government assistance, and the poor really was poor. I mean, as I said, people were dying of starvation in many countries. No, because of the war, it not only cut the population of the world down, which we needed to do, and we need it now as well, so really it should be another war to cut the population down. It's killing off all the other creatures, you see. But yeah, I say God bless Hitler and Putin. Both of them not silly men. But of course, at the end, Hitler was, as happens, you know, power just can go to your head. And that certainly happened with Hitler. But try not to think too bad about these people. They saved the human race. And Putin certainly saved our freedom. Not just in England, but Europe and everyone else as well. That's all I've got to say about it. And just a reminder, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. You know, humans in general are hypocrites, but especially governments. Now, at the end of the Second World War, they had the Nuremberg trials, as you know. And the excuse of the army officers was, what could they do? They had to follow rules. The rules came down from Hitler. They said they had to treat the Jews in such a way, and they had to follow the rule. But at the end of the trials, the English and the American government basically said to them that if you know something to be wrong, that is against human society in general, you should refuse the rules. You know, it's easy to say things like that, but it doesn't work that way. The system that we have in each country, the system of rulership, it's difficult to break that down. It's difficult to get the people together, the masses. Because once the masses can get together as one and fight against it, the police will join the masses, and the army will join the masses. And that's how you can get rid of those people in power who are abusing power, like they have done with the this virus. It was all about taking away your freedom. Nothing more. And also, from what I can see, it was also about trying to cut down on the exhaust fumes from the planes and all these other things, cars, etc. If we can get people to stay at home and not travel, we can clear up the pollution, so to speak. I think that was another reason why they did it. Because if you look now, they're putting the price up of fuel. So it's going to cost a lot more for these planes to fly. And also the planes have to make back the losses. And who do you think is going to pay for these 2 years of lost money? All these companies have suffered and the government has suffered because they're, well, I wouldn't say they've suffered, but the government's been paying out lots of money. Who do you think pays at the end? It's not the rich, it's you lot. The working class, the ones who work. And now, of course, they say, well, we've got to do this because we've got to pay for that. We've got to pay this back. So we have to put the price up. Always an excuse to put the price up, huh? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to cut my travel down. I can't afford to pay 3 times the price. It might even be 4 times the price for a plane trip to Thailand or the Philippines or somewhere. We've really messed it up. I like to use a swear word there, but I don't know if I get kicked off of YouTube, so I use the word messed up instead. Stop being so bloody gullible. And if you see people being gullible around you, tell them to stop it. Question everything. I know you won't, of course, but I had to say it anyway. These last 2 years has shocked me. This homogeneous situation where the herd all think the same. That is not a democracy. From the outside it looks like a democracy, but it's not. As long as you think like they do, you're safe. You know, many countries, I think Austria included, mandated people having injections. They had no choice. They have the injection, the vaccine, or they go to prison. And it would have happened here in England. And that is the most awful thing to do. And that's what's so shocking about it. Because that means you haven't got freedom over your own body. That is not a democracy. A democracy is where I might not agree with what you think or do, but I don't try to stop you. And you shouldn't worry about what I think. Maybe you might disagree with me, as I disagree with you, but it shouldn't go any further. I should be allowed to say what I think, and you should be allowed to say what you think. But it shouldn't be a one-sided conversation where only you get to talk, and I'm not allowed to say anything but to follow what you say. So please, if this happens again, where the government frightens people into doing certain things, which means you're taking away, which means the government's taking away your freedom permanently, don't do it. Stand up for your rights. Stand up for democracy. That must always be your first. Above everything, democracy, freedom for the individual.